so much. Okay, so we have the theme of conference here. Can you read it for me? English teacher
in the era of Industrial Revolution 4.0.
Industrialized Revolution. What is the first word that comes to your mind when you read this term? Industrialized Revolution. Yeah. Anything? Come on, you can just cheat. Technologies, right? Technologies. That's why I chose this topic. It is my main interest, research interest, that currently I'm doing on that. It is about the educational technologies. So my recent research interest is on the use of technologies in Asia. So for my postdoctoral research, I am comparing the use of technologies in different countries in Asia, including Indonesia. So today, I'm going to share with you the part of my research which is relevant to Indonesia. And well, let's just get started. Okay, as an introduction, we know that Indonesia is going on so well. It is expanding their technologies, they're using technologies in their classes, little by little. We started in 2010, in fact, to introduce the concept of smart schools and technological schools. And educators and teachers will love to use their computers, their smart gadgets, day by day in their classrooms. In order to develop our research, we went through 5 main research questions. Let me just tell them what they are. The use of ICT means information and communication technologies. The second research question is about the ICT training that earlier this morning Dr. Mira talked about it, and we said that quite another speakers just said that we need training, right? The third is the preference, how much we prefer, how much our students and how much our teachers would prefer to use ICT. Are they traditional teachers, as Todd just told us earlier, right? Or they are technology maniac type of teachers, the fourth type of teacher, right? And the fourth is why? Why do we think that it is preferable or it is not? Till here, I categorized my research questions to 1, and the second, or the 5th research question is ICT use in reality. Okay, so up to here is our perceptions. Okay, whatever we think about it. In the last one, I am going to share with you how we are using technologies in reality. What is the actual sense of using that? Okay, so the objective is very clear. We want to scrutinize how Indonesians are using educational technologies. Do you use educational technologies? Do you use any technology in your classes? Yes. Wow, that's wonderful, really. Okay. So, increasing ICT. Yes, we use that. But increasing ICT use in education in Indonesia modifies the strategies. It means that it changes the way that we teach in our classes. As I told you earlier, in 2010, the Ministry of Education came up with this term, electronic and smart schools in Indonesia. Although it's like a baby still, although we don't have many facilities in these schools yet, but we thought of that. And there is one interesting research by UNESCO done in 2013, and they came with this finding that more than 80% of Indonesian teachers are using less than 1 hour of technologies in their class. Yes, less than 1 hour. Okay, so majority of teachers are not really, or in 2013 at least, they were not really using technologies. Today you told me that many of you use it, right? So it's not applicable anymore. Okay, so Indonesia is a great country, it's a big country. We have more than 50 million students with more than 3 million teachers. Okay, so 3 million is a huge number, isn't it so? So not all of these 3 million teachers have the chance to get proper training, to know the proper resources, online resources, educational technologies. But the total spending on digital education is not really that much in Indonesia. But don't get scared, don't get panicked, it's not the only country. Many countries in the world are just approaching, are just going on in the 21st century. They are developing, and it's not only our case. So Indonesia is currently using a low level of adoption with digital tools. It is actually, let me tell you, it's not because of infrastructures, but maybe one of the reasons is that 20% of the country don't have the electricity. So it is insane that we say that we want to jump to be a developed country in terms of using educational technologies, while still 20% of the country do not have access to proper electricity. But don't worry, although that a huge number of the students would not have these basics, but in bigger cities, we are using good websites. We have startups. We have so many startups in Indonesia that are uncountable. An example can be One Keeping. Who heard of that?
One keeping was. What do you mean?
No? One Keeping One School is in fact this app, okay? It is one stand, maybe in the smarter schools, the Ministry of Education provided for some selected schools, and the students can easily connect to that, and they can access to whatever data that they want. But the ministry plans to have the machine in most of the schools in the near future. It's a nice diagram, isn't it? Okay, here we are, Indonesia, 2%. Okay, 2019, very recent data, educational technologies in Indonesia. So we are one of the first countries in the whole world that uses educational technologies, no matter what it is. It is an app, it can be a gadget like your smartphones, right? Like the tablets, like computers, like simple projectors. You can just use the PowerPoints, right? Many of us would use these kinds of apps or facilities to facilitate teaching and also learning. Okay, let me tell you a little about my part of research that I told you I'm currently doing. We did this study in 30 public high schools, not private sector, okay? Not private. This study has been done in public schools and maybe in high schools in Indonesia, both in urban and rural areas. We didn't stick to Jakarta and bigger cities, but we wanted to study both rural and urban areas. We had two methods. We observed classes and we interviewed both teachers and students. So we went to 120 students as well as 120 teachers. We asked them, we had the interview with them about the four first research questions, okay? And we selected these schools or these teachers and the students based on convenience sampling. What is convenience? It is comfortable for us to find them, huh? For example, our friend was teaching there at that school, we asked them to gather the data for us. It is available. accessible, it was available for us, it was convenient for us to get the data from there. And then we had open conversations. It was not, we didn't select a questionnaire. We didn't come up with a questionnaire so that they are forced somehow to choose an answer, so that they are not biased, so that they are the ones who give us the data. Okay, we didn't want to give them the data to choose. So it was like an open conversation, and we recorded their talks. We recorded, and later on we transcribed their talks, and to extract the data later on. We gave this data later to SPSS to analyze. This belongs to my first 4 research questions. For the last research question, which was the reality, the ICT used in reality, we used NVivo. How did we do that? Can somebody help me? Thank you. Okay, so for each research question, we went to the teachers and we told them, hey, we are coming to your class and we are going to record your class. We didn't tell them when, which moment, which minute we are going to record. But for all the classes, 30 schools, right? 30 public schools. For all of these 30 public schools, we selected purposefully the 30th to 35th minutes. So 5 minutes per 30 school, in total 150 minutes. Okay, so we extracted our data from these 150 minutes. It was just the 35th minute because we didn't want it to be the beginning of the class, we didn't want it to be at the end of the class, but somewhere in between. And we didn't tell the teachers that we are going to record at this particular minutes because we didn't want them to be biased, to purposefully use their gadgets in that particular minute. Okay, so we just told them that we would record. And then, okay, these two were complementing each other. Still, more than 40% of the teachers do not receive this training. Still, they don't know. But, well, the Ministry of Education is just continuing having these 3 million teachers. You remember 3 million? Gradually, they are going through these trainings one by one. This is another shape of the same the table that I just showed you. About 40% would love to use technologies. 40% of the teachers, they love to use technologies. But at the same time, about 30% of the teachers said that there are some problems. For example, they have no time in the classes. They prefer to finish their textbooks. Or there are some managerial problems. The management is forcing them to just finish the book. Or the parents. Or even the students. If you go online and ask the students just to read, they would think that you're killing the time. They say, no, well, this teacher is not a good teacher. Right? So, as far as you're teaching a textbook, a course book, then they would feel that the teacher is doing something. About 60% of the teachers agree that they would like to use technologies, but they don't know how. It goes back again to training. If we train them enough, this is the same 60% of the previous table that I showed you. Let's go to the third research question. So far, so good?
Yes.
Great. ICT use preference. So this research question is about the preference. If we love to use gadgets, technologies, apps in our classes or not. As you see, both it is 80%, above 80% of both teachers and students claim that they would love to use technologies, right? We are the kids of technology era. We are born and raised with a technology, with a gadget in our hand, right? So who doesn't like it? There are some disadvantages. Time, as I just told you earlier, the stories. Most of the times, teachers want to wrap it up earlier and just close it in one session maximum. Isn't it so? Yes, so time is a great disadvantage. It's a block to use technology. Training, again, technical support. These are the ideas of teachers, okay? So these advantages and disadvantages came by the perceptions of the teachers themselves. On the other hand, everybody said that technologies are user-friendly, they are free of charge, as you mentioned, right? So there are good points about them, but we are lazy, right? Lazy teachers, maybe, to use them. Okay. Yes, or we are tired, not energy. Last but not least, in my opinion, the most important research question is this one. Okay. Since it is important, I hope that all of you would listen to that. ICT used in reality. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, we used NBGO for answering this research question. We gathered all the moments that our teachers used their gadgets in their classroom. Out of that 150 minutes, how many minutes do you think that our Indonesian teachers used? No. 2 minutes 46 out of 150 minutes. Okay, so you see that perceptions is that everybody are in love in using technologies. Everybody knows that it is beneficial to use technologies. Everybody wants to use it. But in reality, we are lazy, we don't see its necessity. So let's give some conclusions. So I have 5 conclusions for my 5 research questions. First of all, in Indonesian high schools, we perceive to highly welcome the use of technologies. We love technologies like any other country. Number 2, Indonesian high school teachers and the students do not receive proper ICT training. So although the Ministry of is training our teachers, but because of the huge population of teachers, maybe we don't have still enough time, or we didn't cover all the teachers so far. 3, Indonesian high school teachers and the students prefer to use. 4, there are advantages and disadvantages in using technologies, and so it means that some teachers think that it is not good enough, And on the other hand, there are some teachers or students who think that we must use that. And 5th, ICT has a very light usage, 2 minutes, right? In the education of high schools in Indonesia. Let me give you some recommendations out of this research. So the first important people that this research would be useful for them are authorities. Who are the authorities in Indonesia? Ministry of Education and Culture, Ministry of Education in Higher Education. So these are the 2 authorities that can come up with new policies to help the country use more technologies in education. Second is application. Why we don't use our gadgets? We don't want to use our cell phones only for Instagram or, I don't know, Facebook. Okay, use your Facebook, but just as Todd told us, put your photo of your blackboard or your whiteboard on your Facebook. Then you would be amazed how many likes you would get. You would be a popular teacher in the world. Okay, the next recommendation is access. I told you that maybe the infrastructure in Indonesia is not that great yet, so that all the population can use because of electricity, because of internet connection, because of lack of facilities like computers. Not all the schools are equipped with a simple computer, right? So accessibility is important to use the technology. If we don't have access to technology, we cannot use it. Awareness is training. If we have the technology and we don't have the knowledge how to use them, again, no use of the technology, right? Okay, so far I've talked about my research. From now on, which is the second part of my speech, I would like to share some challenges that Indonesia face in terms of using educational technologies, and at the end I can give you some solutions. These solutions are not only by research, but I just gathered from other researchers as well. Any questions so far? Yes? Okay, so I just continue. The first challenge that the country faced, anything? Yes? You have a question?
Thank you very much for the chance for me. I am an English teacher. I teach English in rural area. So in my school, that the students are forbidden to take their handphones to school, because we are still very afraid to. Yes, our students sometimes most of them just use their handphone to something wrong, and so that we are. So this is our difficulties to apply the technology.
That's it.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. Actually, okay, because of shortage of time, actually I skipped a little bit of my findings. Is maybe here? Okay. Okay, so I just explained here that I skipped. I just wrote that in Indonesia, based on our research and other researchers, the most lovely gadget is our mobile phone. Okay, is that true? Yes. But as our friend just told us, we are not using that in the classes. So what we did, bring your own device. Some limited schools, they allowed their students to bring their gadgets. But still, most of the teachers, most of the schools' policy is just to ban it. They don't want, because they are scared maybe students use it on the wrong way. So there are some stages that we went further, that we improved a little. Some, as you see, some schools, they allowed their students to use technologies to bring their gadgets, but still it is not widespread. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay. No.
Let's go ahead.
Yeah, I just hope you don't worry. Okay.
I did only 5 minutes.
I take your time. Okay, so this is also another finding that I skipped earlier, but because I want to help the dean, I will explain it more thoroughly. Okay, so as you see, about 50% of the teachers and students would love to use technologies. They say that technology is essential. There is nothing but technologies that can help our students in today's world. It is 21st century, we must use it, we cannot escape it. On the other hand, there are about 30 or 25% of other participants who said that technology can be useful, not necessarily, okay? And there are some other teachers who said that using technology is optional. We can use it or not. And the rest, they say that most of the time senior teachers who tend not to change, as the Dr. Ann told this morning, they don't want to change. They want to keep the traditional textbook Okay, so let's go on to the second section of my presentation. Challenges and then solutions. What is it for? What is it for? Okay. So ready for the second section?
Yes.
Great. The first problem that Indonesia faces is infrastructure. As I explained earlier, it can be electricity, it can be connection, internet connection, it can be having Wi-Fi at the school, and so many others. Here is so interesting. Look at here. I hope that it can be large. We are located here, the third country. So this is how internet usage. It means that some teachers think that it is not good enough, huh? And on the other hand, there are some teachers or students who think that we must use that. And fifth, ICT has a very light usage, 2 minutes, right? In the education of high schools in Indonesia. Let me give you some recommendations out of this research. So the first important people that this research would be useful for use more technologies in education. Second is application. Why we don't use our gadgets? We don't want to use our cell phones only for Instagram or I don't know, Facebook. Okay, use your Facebook, but just as Todd told us, put your photo of your blackboard or your whiteboard on your Facebook. Then, okay, the next recommendation is access. I told you that maybe the infrastructure in Indonesia is not that great yet, so that all the population can use because of electricity, because of internet connection, because of lack of facilities like computers. Not all the schools are equipped with a simple computer, right? So accessibility is important to use the technology. If we don't have access to technology, obviously we cannot use it. Awareness is training. If we have the technology and we don't have the knowledge, share some challenges that Indonesia face in terms of using educational technologies, and at the end I can give you some solutions. These solutions are not only by research, but I just
that the students are forbidden to their handphones to school because we are still very afraid to. Yes, our students sometimes most of them just use their handphone to something wrong.
Yes,
and so that we are. So this is our difficulties to apply the technology.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. Participants,